Hey everybody, welcome to the prop shop, and today I'm going to show you how you can make very own sword from Ronin, or their character Ronin, or Hawkeye, whatever his name is, when he's not destroying the Yakuza underground world. So I'm going to show you how you can make this out of some EVA foam, and the best part about this build is it's not going to require a lot of tools, and I'm going to show you those tools right before we get into the build. So let me show you what I actually used to make this sword. This, and this. Wires like this, 2mm foam, 8mm foam. Oops. Oh, sanding sticks. Wide variety of grits. Triangular dowel. There's this, Plasti-dip, and that. And that's it. Let's get right into it. So to start, I cut out two rectangular pieces. It's 38 inches by 3.5 inches, and we're gonna have to stick something in the middle to make it a little bit more sturdy. So in this prop, in order to make it nice and sturdy, we'll not only be doing one long armature wire that I taped together, we're gonna have two along the back side. Now I already traced out the pattern onto the foam, so we're gonna go ahead and start to glue our two sections together. So we have here our two rectangular pieces of 8mm EVA foam, and the lines in the middle and along the edge are going to represent where we're going to have the armature wire going up through the back of the blade and the middle of the blade to make it a little bit more sturdy throughout this entire prop. In order to stick these two pieces of foam together with our wire in the middle, we're going to go ahead and use our favorite adhesive, contact cement. Now, you're going to go ahead and apply it to both sides, let it dry, and stick them together, and they'll be held forever. Alright, now that we got all the glue laid down, it's just time to wait for glue to dry. Yeah, so the fun part about making things is you're always waiting for glue or paint to dry. So, we wait. Everybody, welcome back. I'm going to try a brand new thing, which is throughout this video, I'm going to stand or do the overhead shot, whichever happens to be more beneficial for the scene, but we'll see how it goes. But if you like this, let me know down in the comments below. If not, all said, I have no problem doing that. But I'm kind of tired of waiting for glue to dry, so I'm going to go ahead and use our handy dandy air dryer. This is going to speed everything up just a little bit, just like this. And we're going to get to the rest of the build. We're actually going to go ahead and put the rod in first, and then after that we'll stick this part on top of it. So let's speed this up a little bit. So I do have some important things I want to share with you guys right before we go ahead and glue everything all together. Now, with this right here, these lines represent exactly where the bars or the armature wire is supposed to go. Now, if you don't put it on here, it's going to cause a lot of issues a little bit later on in the build. More so for this one back here, because this gives the back of the sword a little bit of more structure. So when we go ahead and do that, we also need to note that this is for the length of the actual sword itself, but we're going to also have it run into the handle. And that's to make sure it's going to actually be not a little floppy piece of foam, but it's actually going to have some rigidity to it, so you can swing it around and kind of have a little bit of fun with it. But these are very important things I wanted to go over before we started gluing everything down. And also, if you guys like the glasses, let me know. I can see a lot better without them. I just tend to not use them because the glare in the actual lighting that I have. So sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. Off camera, I use them a lot. Let me know down in the comments below. If you like them, no? Okay, let's go glue things. So we're gonna go right ahead and stick our rod in the middle. We're gonna go with that one first, and then the other one on the back side. And like I said, line these up very carefully because that's gonna be the entire structure of the entire sword. Now, if you wanna make this nice and straight, you can go ahead and lay it on a flat surface or your workbench, wherever you happen to be working, and stick the rod right down in the middle. And we can kind of roll the top layer almost like a sandwich right onto the very top. Alright, so we have the thickness of our sword the exact way we want it to be, but now we have to go ahead and draw on the actual sword itself onto this block giant rectangle piece of foam, which I already did. I didn't use any templates, I didn't use any guides or anything. I just, honestly, I looked at a picture on the internet and I kind of freehanded it. I have the circles up here, 4 of them. There's actually supposed to be 5, but who's gonna know? I got the handle down here, how it's all supposed to be done up too. So we've got a lot of work to do. So we're gonna go ahead and cut everything out. And the reason I cut 2 layers, or I glued 2 layers together, is when I cut them out, it's a lot less seams I'm gonna have to fix, a lot less sanding I'm gonna have to do in the future. And any sanding you wanna save yourself you're gonna wanna do that. So let's go ahead and do that. And I also have a very great idea about how I'm going to go ahead and cut out the edge right here without actually having to sand anything. Well, you might have to do a little bit of sanding, but you don't have to like match up perfect edges or anything like that. So it's going to be a lot easier, and it's going to involve a triangular dowel, or a triangle dowel, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to be a lot easier than actually trying to have sand things. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it now. And back to the regular format so I can show you how to cut this thing out with a regular craft knife. Yeah, there's that. This process right here is pretty straightforward. All these lines are going to be cut just on a 90-degree angle. So straight up and down, follow the lines, and have some fun. This is kind of my favorite part, is cutting everything out. All right, everybody, so when I actually went ahead and cut everything out, I got the sword all cut out right here. I did make a crucial mistake, which is completely my fault. The actual rod, or the armature wire that goes up throughout the entire length of the blade, or the back of the blade, just to keep it nice and sturdy too, so these holes that we're going to poke through don't actually become really flimsy-like and you can't like smush them. What I did was I didn't measure it exactly the way I was supposed to. So I kind of eyeballed it and it worked against me. So now, if you can see a little bit closer in the camera right here, this wire that's sticking out right here, I'm going to have to take care of before I move on. But that's okay, because I'm going to go ahead and use my trusty Dremel Easy Lock cutter thing, the cutting wheel, that's what I'm going to call it. And I'm going to go ahead and hack that off real quick. After that, I'm not 100% worried about these edges right here, because I am going to use a piece of 2mm EVA foam to kind of cover it all up. I'd use 1mm, but 1mm is really difficult to work with, so I'm going to bypass that, do the 2mm, plus I have some, and then just kind of cover it all up. It's going to run along the side and the back right here, so what if I miss anything or any of this little cleanup right here, not going to have to do. Just take a 2mm EVA foam over there, cover the edges, and it's going to look fantastic. So let's go cut this off and make some sparks fly. Alright guys, so before I go ahead and show you how to punch out these holes and make these back rivets, or whatever you want to call them, I'm just going to call them rivets for now. Before we go ahead and start that, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make the edge of the blade. Now the edge of the blade is going to be made with a long triangular dowel. Now this is a 10mm EVA dowel I got from Micheals, and it's going to go along the edge of the sword right here. Now I didn't want to go ahead and make it thicker, because this is just going to add a thickness to it. What we're going to do right here is take off 10mm from the thickest part of the sword, so it can actually bevel in and look like a sharp sword. So how we're going to do that, and this technique you can use, it's limitless. The best thing about this is it's really going to teach you how to make straight lines around compound curves, or as big as you want the line to be. It could be 10mm, it could be an inch, 2 inches. Well, I mean, your hand can't spread that far, but maybe you can. I don't know. So what we're going to do is subtract 2mm or 10mm from the inside right here. We're going to bump that in just a little bit, hack that off so we can go ahead and glue our dowel to the actual sword itself. Now, it's a mouthful. Let me show you how did that all without actually showing you how to do it. So let me go ahead and show you how to do it real quick. We're going to take our dowel right here, going to line it up with the top and mark where that dowel actually sits. So right here is the only thing currently that we need to mark. So with that mark, we're going to be able to draw a line down the entire blade right here. Let me explain. Actually, I'm not explaining. Let me actually show you. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take this finger right here, put it on the edge, take your whatever, however you hold a pen or pencil, whatever you're actually marking it with, and put it there. Now, make your hand stiff. So what you're going to do is just ride along the edge. If you could see it, this finger is, well, I mean, I just moved a little bit because I'm trying to show you guys, but this finger is not moving and it's just going straight down right there. And that's how we're going to get the straight line that we actually need to cut off. All this is going to be filled by that dowel and it's going to be all pointed in. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the rest of this off, and then we're going to start gluing some things together. We're getting close to this actually being a finished product, so let's cut that off. Okay? Okay. Before we go any further, we can go ahead and cut off that little inset where the 10mm EVA triangular dowel is going to sit. So let's go cut that off right now before we start gluing everything on. Now, since this is not a super thick EVA foam sword, we can go ahead and use the Costools hole cutter on the largest setting it has to kind of punch out these holes. And as you see, I'm going to go ahead, drill it right down, and then after that, really, it's just kind of connecting the dots with a regular craft knife. So I said there wasn't going to be a lot of sanding. Well, there really isn't. This is going to be just running through the grits, and we're going to go ahead and smooth out these holes for the back rivets that we have along the back side of the sword, just to get rid of a little bit of the fuzzies. The heat gun will take care of the rest. After that's all done, it's gluing the final piece onto our sword. Well, still got to get the little pieces of 2mm foam along the edges, but we're going to go ahead and glue the actual edge of the sword. Now, we're going to go ahead and apply the contact cement to the dowel and straight to the sword blade. And that's going to give us our nice little edge that we're going to be looking for on a regular sword. And now, just like any other thing, we're going to go ahead and stick it on right to the edge. Now, this is the only real sanding you're going to have to do. If you actually were smart, like I wasn't, you can go ahead and cut a 45-degree angle when you do go ahead and cut out the sword handle. I should have said that in the beginning, but I didn't. So, if you're like me and didn't do that, we're going to go ahead and sand these edges to a 45-degree angle, or just kind of make it comfortable to fit your hand. We're also going to get these little notches in there, and that's going to give the sword the actual shape it's supposed to be. We're going to go ahead and beef up this crossguard just a little bit, so I'm going to take that same exact 8mm foam and kind of add another layer onto the actual crossguard itself. Now, I'm just, again, no templates or anything, just really kind of eyeballing it. Now, for a simple added design onto the handle, I'm going to go ahead and cut out a little piece of 2mm EVA foam, kind of wrap it around, so number one, we don't have to see the seams, and number two, it's going to have a cool little circle-y looking thing on the edge. This is the part where I'm also going to cut out those pieces of foam that's going to go ahead and cover the sides of the crossguard and hide a lot of those seams that we have right there. And it's all to hide the crimes. And very similar to the technique we used with the backside of the sword, cutting those little holes in there, I'm going to use that to cut these little circular holes we have in the handle. Same exact concept. After that's all cut out, some layers of contact cement, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this handle in the foam. After that, we can move on to heat sealing the prop, and then I'm going to use a technique that I always forget to use, but every time I've done it, I've never regretted it. We're going to go ahead and apply some Mod Podge onto it and give it an even more desirable texture than just the heat gun would or the Plasti-dip. Honestly, a Mod Podge is best applied with a sponge brush to try to avoid some of those brush strokes on your final finished product. On top of that, seems like overkill, but we're going to go with a few layers of Plasti-dip. Alright guys, we're on the home stretch right here. So this is the sword with all, I think it was 3 layers of Plasti-dip. I threw on everything. I let it dry overnight, and this is what we got so far. Now, the next step, which is very close to the final step, we're basically in the home run right here. The home stretch. Home run, home stretch, they're the same thing. We're almost done. But we're gonna go ahead and paint on some of our Plat-FX paints, which is specifically made for cosplay, so it's gonna be able to bend and flex very easily. And I'm gonna use the Silver Samurai, which is one of my favorite colors so far. I know it's silver, but it's gonna add a real nice metally sword thing to it. It's gonna look great. So we're gonna go ahead and brush that on. Instead of using a regular paintbrush, I wanna eliminate some of the brush strokes. So I was going to use my airbrush. Unfortunately, it's not working right now. Hopefully it will soon. But we're gonna go ahead and use a sponge brush. Hopefully this will give us the no brush strokes that we are kind of looking for on this whole prop. So let's go ahead and take care of that first before we move on to sealing it and enjoying the rest of our prop. We're almost done. This part's pretty straightforward. I believe it was a few coats of the Silver Samurai to go ahead and paint on. And yeah, you just kind of paint it right on. Let it dry, paint it on again. Like I said, you're always kind of waiting for paint to dry. But we're gonna go ahead and take care of that first. And then guess what? We are done. And there you have it, folks. This is Ronin's sword, or Hawkeye sword, from the Avengers, or Hawkeye, for any one of the appearances it has. Let's just say the new Hawkeye show. Now, the favorite things, or the things I really, really enjoyed about this build is these holes right here that go in the back of the sword were super easy to cut out. We're using the Costools hole cutter, punching those holes right through, and then just kind of connecting the dots right there. Made this thing just look so much more crisper and cleaner. So I didn't have to go with the Dremel and round anything out or anything, and chance kind of having it run off and mess up the rest of the prop. Another thing I liked is the paint job. Super, super simple. Silver, and then black. Yeah, that's it. I didn't even have to throw any weathering on the sword because the Plat-FX Silver Samurai made this thing just look, it's fantastic. The edge of the sword with that triangular dowel came out really, really good because it doesn't have to have a very thick blade. It's not like any one of those other anime swords that has a very giant taper on it. It's very small, and it fits there perfectly. So, things I didn't like about the build, or things I could have possibly done I could have changed. Now, it's really not much, honestly. This thing came out so great, I can't wait to hang this up. Oh yeah, 2 things real quick. I don't know if you can actually see it on the camera, but I did kind of wander a little bit. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, maybe sanding, and there's a little bit of a gash in there. That's my fault. I kind of messed that up a little bit. The other thing is I gotta find a better way to hide these seams. I don't know if you can see it on camera as well, but you can kind of clearly see where the edge comes up and then starts to dip down into the actual point itself, which not a huge problem. I could have used some of the Alex Fast Dry to blend the seams a little bit better, but then again, you can also see where the blade edge starts on the sword and where it doesn't. Maybe I could have also made it a little bit skinnier too. But that's basically it. That's gonna take it to the end of the video for me, guys. If you want to see any other Marvel props, whatever it is, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to comment back to you guys if I'm gonna make it. If you have any ideas for anything else, just let me know, and I will do my best to make it. So, until next time, everybody, stay crafty, my friends.